If you've got a 401k, an IRA, or a pension plan, I've got some really bad news for you. The IRS wants you to think that these so-called qualified plans are the best way to save money for retirement. They induce you to max out your plans by giving you tax breaks right now and allowing your money to grow tax-free over the years. Sounds pretty good, right? Wrong. The fact is that putting money in your 401k or IRA is almost the worst thing you could do for your retirement, because you're going to be taxed out of your gourd when you finally retire and need the money the most. Then, when you die, guess what? The IRS will hit you with a double whammy. They'll tax your estate when you die, then they'll tax whatever is left again when it is inherited by your heirs. And on top of the tax problems, you'll also have to deal with market volatility that can kill your portfolio. Just think about 2001 and 2008. What if there were a way to avoid tax burdens at retirement, avoid portfolio-killing down years in the market, and virtually eliminate any worries you may have about outliving your money during retirement? On this video, I want to show you an IRS-approved class of tax-friendly retirement savings vehicles that beats the pants off your IRA, 401k, or pension plan. They've been around for years, are offered by the oldest, largest, and most financially stable institutions in the world, and allow your money to grow tax-free, just like your current qualified plan, but has zero taxes when the money is dispersed at retirement. Think about that for a minute. Zero taxes on your estate when you die, and zero taxes when the money is transferred to your heirs at death. Listen to that one more time. Zero taxes as your money grows, zero taxes when the money is distributed, and zero on your estate when you die, and zero taxes on the money inherited by your family. Zero. And here's the best part. Unlike your qualified plan, there is no risk that you will lose principal on the investment during a down market. If the market tanks like it did in 2008, your worst case scenario is no gain, but no loss either. What I'm talking about is a retirement savings vehicle that will help make sure you don't outlive your money during retirement. Are you intrigued? Well, you should be. I want to take a few minutes right now to share with you an important message about the best retirement savings vehicle you've never heard of. Let's start by talking about the IRS. They desperately want you to think that an IRA is the best way to grow your money for retirement. You know what? It's not even close. I'm talking about what the IRS calls qualified plans, IRAs, 401ks, pension plans, and so forth. Compared to traditional brokerage accounts where you'd normally buy stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, these qualified plans have some really good tax advantages. First, you can invest in a qualified plan with before tax dollars. Number two, you don't have to pay taxes on these gains every year like you do on regular stocks and mutual funds, so your money grows tax deferred. It's not taxed until you take the money out when you finally retire. That means you have more money working for you during those years leading up to retirement. Sounds pretty good, right? Well, yeah. Compared to a regular brokerage account, sure. But that's like saying a bicycle is the best mode of transportation going. Of course, a bike beats the heck out of walking, especially if you're trying to travel outside of your immediate neighborhood. But what if you're trying to travel across town or clear across the country? You might want to try a car. And what if you're trying to get overseas? Walking's out of the question. And that bicycle is pretty much worthless. You'd be much better off in a jet plane. So just to make sure you're following my analogy, a regular brokerage account is like walking, lots of tax problems. A qualified plan is like a bicycle or maybe even a beat-up old car. Better than walking, but not super helpful on extra long trips like, say, retirement. What I'm going to show you on this video is like having your very own top-of-the-line private jet, fully fueled and ready to go with your own personal pilot. Yeah, it's that much better. The key to really maximizing your retirement savings is to understand the difference between tax-deferred and tax-free. Under the IRS qualified plans that you probably have right now, your money is growing tax-deferred, which inherently means that it will be taxed at some point in the future. Guess when that point is? That's right, when you retire and need the money the most. You probably won't be working, tax rates will probably even be higher than they are now, and you won't have any IRS-friendly deductions for kids or mortgage interest if your house is paid off, which means that you'll be paying a huge percentage of what you take out to the IRS in taxes, which, of course, reduces the amount that you have to spend for living expenses and lifestyle. Here's another way to look at it. Uncle Sam is counting on you to pay more than your fair share of taxes when you retire. Think of how brilliant that is. Let's encourage people to contribute money by giving them a tax break now, then let that money grow tax deferred so we can get an even bigger chunk of taxes from them later. Hey, I'm all for paying my fair share of taxes, but I tell you what, giving the IRS a bare minimum of $33,000 for every $100,000 I withdraw from my qualified plan at retirement? Just plain ridiculous. Look, you've paid taxes and you'll continue to pay taxes for your entire working career. Let's keep the government's hands out of our wallets at retirement, okay? For the record, that $33,000 out of every $100,000 you withdraw isn't a worst case scenario either. You realize that, don't you? With the probability that tax rates will rise, it's probably actually a best case scenario. Any right-thinking person can see that the tax rate of 40 or 50% isn't out of the question 15 or 20 years down the road. So, let's talk about this so-called jet plane of retirement savings vehicles. You know, the one that beats the pants off a regular brokerage account or qualified plan. Before I tell you exactly what it is, let me show you some of the major advantages it holds. First, tax-free accumulation. Just like a qualified plan and way better than a brokerage account, your money grows year after year without having to pay taxes on the annual gains. Compound interest can then work its magic, which allows your money to grow bigger and faster. We don't need to have a discussion about compound interest, do we? If you're not familiar, just go to Google and type "the greatest miracle of growing money ever known to mankind" and find out about the greatness of compound interest. Second, tax-free distribution. Here's where your current qualified plan starts to look really bad. When you hop on board the jet plane of retirement savings vehicles, your money not only grows tax-free, but you can also actually distribute the money at retirement tax-free. That means that on the same $100,000 distribution I just talked about, you keep all of it, regardless of the then current tax rate. 30% tax rate? You won't care. You'll pay no taxes. 40 or 50% tax rate? Let everyone else worry about that. Your retirement savings can be used tax-free. $100,000 means $100,000 to spend, not $67,000 or less. Which do you prefer? Third, tax-free transfer. With a qualified plan or with a regular brokerage account, your money will likely be taxed twice when you pass away. Once on the amount left in the account when you die, and then again when your heirs receive the leftovers as income. Great for the IRS, horrible for your estate. The jet plane of retirement savings vehicle lands smoothly here too. No death taxes, no inheritance taxes. If you've got $1 million in your account when you die, your heirs get the full $1 million. Uncle Sam? Nothing. Transfer tax laws are, however, fairly complicated, and there's some exceptions and some limitations. So ask the qualified advisor who gave you this video to discuss your situation with you. Fourth, no risk of loss of principal. Remember when the stock market lost over half its value in less than 18 months starting in October 2007? Of course you do, because your portfolio probably lost half its value or more during that same time too. Did you start having nightmares about being 82 years old and still working part-time at Walmart just to keep food on the table? Your qualified plan has no way to protect you from that kind of market volatility and downside losses. Ouch! Not true with the jet plane of retirement savings vehicles. The principal in the account never loses altitude. When structured properly, there's no chance it will lose any principal. Not a dime. Not a penny. Nothing. If you'd been on board with this in October 2007, your portfolio would probably look a whole lot prettier right now. I'll explain why and how in just a minute. Fifth, dramatically reduce the chance of outliving your money during retirement. Survey after survey show that baby boomers' #1 fear about retirement is outliving their money. And hey, you know what? That's a perfectly reasonable fear if you ask me. If you have $1 million saved and you retire at age 65, that's pretty good if you only plan on living until you're, say, 70 or 75, and if you don't have any significant medical issues. But how do you stretch $1 million, or whatever amount you end up having saved by the time you retire, for 15 or 20 or 30 years, especially given the increase in cost of living and the likelihood of needing specialized care if you do end up living into your late 80s or 90s? Not to worry if you ride the jet plane of retirement savings vehicles. When structured and funded properly, it'll keep on paying and paying and paying all through your 70s, 80s, 90s, and even beyond that if you're lucky enough to hit 100. Hey, you're more likely to hit 100 if you're not stressed out over money. Time to get on board. Okay. There are even more advantages, and I'll cover them in just a minute. But first, let me address that question that I know is nagging you in the back of your mind. You're saying to yourself right now, okay, this all sounds great. Everything you've said so far makes a lot of sense, and I'm interested. But hey, pal, what's the catch? We all know that anything that sounds too good to be true probably isn't. Hey, I hear you. Between Enron, Bernie Madoff, and the great stock market meltdowns of the 2000s, a healthy dose of cynicism, skepticism, or both is not only understandable, it's just plain smart. part. I'll tell you what the catch is, and trust me, it's more like 6 seconds of turbulence on your 6-hour flight to Hawaii on your personal jet plane than a catch. But first, a quick reality check. Just because you've never heard of this before doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, doesn't mean that hundreds of thousands of people aren't already using it, and doesn't mean that all of the advantages that I've talked about aren't absolutely real and sitting there just waiting for you. So, here's the 6 seconds of turbulence catch. Per IRS rules, you have to fund the plan I'm telling you about with after-tax dollars. In other words, you can't deduct the amount you contribute off your current year's taxes like you can with a qualified plan. That means that if you were to contribute $6,000 this year in an IRA versus this retirement savings vehicle, you'd in reality pay an extra $2,000 in taxes this year, assuming a 33% tax bracket. If you're in a lower tax bracket, naturally, your tax savings would be less. That sounds like a drawback, right? Well, actually, no. To understand why funding with after-tax dollars instead of before-tax dollars like you would with a qualified plan is not a drawback, you just need to understand the alternatives. Answer this philosophical question. If you were a farmer, would you rather pay taxes on the small sack of seeds when you purchase them in the spring, or would you rather pay taxes on your entire harvest when you sell it in the fall? Well, do the math. If a farmer bought $1,000 worth of seeds and was taxed at 8%, he'd pay $80. But if the farmer planted those seeds and paid the same 8% of taxes on a $50,000 harvest, he'd pay $4,000 in taxes. 80 versus 4,000. That's a 50 times increase in taxes paid. The same rationale applies to your retirement savings. In fact, the amount of money you save on upfront taxes with a qualified plan, remember, you'd save $2,000 in taxes by making a $6,000 contribution into a qualified plan, okay? Will almost certainly be dwarfed by the taxes you pay at retirement, to the tune of about 10 times at least. Here's why. If your $6,000 grows to $100,000 over the course of the next 30 years, remember the magic of compound interest. This is very reasonable. You'll pay at least $33,000 in taxes on the harvest. We already talked about this earlier. That's $33,000 straight to the IRS right when you'll be needing it the most. Would you rather pay $2,000 in taxes right now or $33,000 at least in taxes later? It's as simple as seeds and harvest. I've said it once and I'll say it again. No wonder Uncle Sam loves qualified plans so much. It's his way of protecting his financial future.